Welcome back to lesson 3 of our masterclass series on looking at First Nations perspectives in our geography lessons. So this lesson is focused on incorporating your local Aboriginal language within your geography lesson. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And I know that's a little bit stretched out. So incorporating Aboriginal language into your lessons. So what you could do here is, look at the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders language map that can be found on the AATSA site. There is a interactive language map as well that you could utilise in your classroom. And what you could do is that you go onto the website, and I have put that into the PDF printable sheet where I've listed all of the websites or further research videos into that document that you will probably have in front of you. So you could look at the language map. You could research local Indigenous sites and their names. So when you're looking at geographical locations, you could start with your hometown or the city that you live in. So that local perspective. You can get out your maps. You could have a look at any of the streets or even the city name. What is the traditional Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander name that's used for that area? Who are the people? Who are the traditional custodians of the area on which you live? Who are the surrounding nations? You can start with that local perspective, but then go out and research and learn about the neighbouring nations as well. So you can look at all the different sites, whether there are Indigenous sites. Go as far as looking at the different street names. Are there any Aboriginal street names? And if so, what are the words and what do they mean? Is there a significant site in your area? What's the Aboriginal language word for that significant site? What's the meaning of it? What's the story behind that site? So again, you could look at the local names, but then go that bit deeper and learn about the actual language name, the structure of the language word. If you have access to a local Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander language resource or a dictionary would be handy, or just have a look on the language sites on the internet. There is an article around Indigenous meanings of the different Australian towns. So when you're looking at the Australian map with the different states and territories and the city's name, you can also, not just give them the name that, we've grown up knowing them as, like Sydney or Melbourne. What's the actual, traditional language word for that area? Who are the people? And there is the article on SBS by NITV around Indigenous meanings around the Australian town names. Students could also research some famous Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander sites and list the names of the Aboriginal nations, the name of the site, and the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander name and meaning. You could watch Indigenous children or adults singing in language on YouTube. And again, looking at those language words. And there is another link that I've put in around discovering the diversity of Australia through Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages, which is a wonderful site that you can go to and learn more about the different nations and discovering the diversity between those nations, whether it be in language, even like looking as far as, you know, what's the word that we use for tree, or, you know, a landscape feature in your local area, and then you're looking at the same sort of tree in different nations. Are the words similar that are used in the different languages? So you can compare and contrast different language words for, you know, particular landscape features around the area, or even, you know, across the nation in the many nations. You could also look at Aboriginal words for the native animals around your area. So what sort of animals live in those different areas? What's the language name for those animals or plants, or plants, animals, or trees or shrubs, or, you know, plants. You could have your students make posters and display them in your classroom or in around the school environment. And the interactive language map that I spoke about earlier is the AATSIS map, Indigenous languages or nations, and that could be found at the aatsis.gov.au. And I've also added that link into the PDF. And so when you're looking at specific locations in the different states and territories, if you're looking at, you know, Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander significant sites, whether it be on land or in sea, in the ocean, how then can you bring that Aboriginal perspective so you can, you know, learn about the significance of those sites, introducing the language of those areas, and then comparing and contrasting the difference between your local Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander language to another nation's site. What are the similarities? What are the differences within the landscape features? So you can compare and contrast, you know, even if you're looking at, you know, weaving baskets on the different types of geographical locations around Australia, what sort of, you know, natural resources are used in the different areas. Because of the different environments, therefore there's going to be different resources available. So you can look at the different resources that are used to create certain tools and weapons, and then compare and contrast those. What's the local language for those, you know, whether you're looking at the woven baskets, the different grasses that grow on specific country of the areas that you're focusing on, and list those, list the language name for those, list the, you know, the Australian name for that. And is there any other uses for those natural resources that are being utilised to create, you know, tools or weapons? And then again, linking back to that Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander language. If you have any questions in regards to, you know, finding your local, you know, finding that local perspective in regards to language and the pronunciation of language, reach out to your local AECG, so Aboriginal Education Consultative Group. Or you could also reach out to your local land council and just tap into those local Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander community, community organisations, so that you're building relationships through them, and then they're able to point you in the right direction as to where you could go to actually, start building those relationships with the local community members. So then you're able to get them to come in and, do some language in a geography lesson, or name some, use language in regard to the natural fibres that are utilised in that particular environment. And they might even know, they might even be able to link you to somebody else in another neighbouring nation, and vice versa. So I hope you've got a few ideas out of this quick lesson, and I will see you in the next.